joining, which is really good and encouraging. So I hope I don't disappoint in terms of what I'm going to present to you. I'm going to basically be running through kind of how we use Power BI in planning in Fife, and just to say that it is only for planning and development management side that I'm going to be covering today. So those of you who are interested in building standards, I won't be covering that today, because in Fife we are set up, planning service sits separately from building standards. Just a bit of background about me. I'm a lead officer that manage within our major business customer service team. I manage our gateway team that deal with the validation of planning applications, our customer contact, and for the purposes of this session, our kind of improvements team. So I'm joined by my colleague Pete O'Connor, who's on the call, that will be able to help with some technical questions today. And we also have two improvement technicians within the team, Stephen Trainer and Kerry Strachan. I think Stephen's joined the call as well today. I started in planning 28 years ago, believe it or not, in admin, so I have a lot of background on the processes. I was involved in setting uniform up in 1999, and I've been involved in e-development and e-planning, so I've got quite a lot of knowledge of the systems. Used to do a lot of the reporting, but now in my role, I kind of leave that to the improvement guys, and it's certainly moved on leaps and bounds since I started in 1996. So just a bit of outline of what I'm going to cover today. I'm going to kind of give you a bit of introduction to Power BI, what it is, what it does. So apologies for those that are already using it or maybe know a lot about it. I'm going to explain the journey that we've taken with Power BI and what we've done in terms of getting to where we are today. And then I'm going to give you a demonstration of a number of dashboards. Not all of them you'll be pleased to hear, but ones that I think may be helpful to let you see. So for example, we have some internal dashboards that we have for staff reporting. We have some national stuff that we report on, and we have some external stuff that I can show you on our website that we've managed to publish as well. And then I'm really wanting this to be kind of, a two-way thing. So I'm hoping that you've got lots of questions. So please feel free just to drop questions into the chat or wait to the end and pop your hand up. And I really want it to be quite an interactive kind of discussion and not me kind of talking at you for the whole time. I don't plan to talk for the whole session. I plan just to kind of quickly go through a number of slides and then let you see the actual live information that we've managed to publish. Okay. So Power BI, it's a Microsoft product. It's part of the Microsoft Office suite, and it's a business analytical tool developed by Microsoft. There is license costs associated with this, and it really depends on the scale of your authority and the number of people that are using it. But in Fife, we have what's called an enterprise license, which allows everybody within the organisation to be able to browse dashboards, but the people that are actually developing the dashboards will have like a developer license, and that's kind of done on a case-by-case basis. So every authority will be set up slightly different, and there'll be different costs associated with that. BI is the business intelligence, so it provides interactive visuals and business intelligence capabilities. So really providing a simple interface for users that people can go in and self-serve and get information in an easily and readily available way as well. So I'll talk about data flows, and I'm getting some of the technicalities, but data flow is effectively, if we kind of use Uniform as an example, which most authorities are using as their back office system, the data flow is where you actually pull the information from Uniform and put it in. Some people might refer to it as a data factory or a data warehouse, but it's essentially the place where all your data sits. So Power BI connects to, for example, Uniform, and it will pull that data on a regular basis, and that could be daily or it maybe happens twice a day. In Fife, we run the data is pulled once a day. And what that does is that saves having to kind of constantly kind of drain the resource on your back office system. So it's sitting in this data flow essentially. And that's something that we started off doing. So what I would say is start small when you're creating your data flows. So when I say start small, is like if I could take an example as like a planning application, your kind of main planning application data from your reception screen, that's all stored within one table. So kind of pull all that information first and then actually start to build on it. So you might have all your base information about decision dates, application types, and you may want to then build on to get some fee information, which we'll pull from a different table. So kind of start small and build and continually test what you're pulling as well. So that's a little bit overview about Power BI. Just kind of set the scene about what we did and how we actually started our journey on Power BI. So our existing tool that we had at the time, Crystal, we were told it was no longer supported. So I know other authorities may be using other reporting tools such as Access to run your reports currently. So we were told this Crystal server was going to be, it was no longer supported. It's still working in Fife, but if it crashed today, our IT system, our IT providers wouldn't be able to bring it back up. So that was a kind of push to get our reports off of Crystal, and we looked at tools to see what tools were available to pull that information in a similar way. And that's where we started our journey on Power BI. So we made sure that key staff were trained within planning services, and that's really why we've got an improvement officer and 2 improvement technicians within the team. So they were trained. I also attended the training, so as a lead, and one of the service managers also attended as well. So while I don't write the reports, it was really important. We felt that somebody at management level went along to the training, so they had an understanding of what their staff were going to be doing. But essentially, it's the training, the developer training is really designed for staff that are actually going to be building the reports and dashboards. We worked in collaboration with our internal IT staff. So in Fife, we can't create the data flows. So although the data belongs to us, we can't create the data flows. So we had to work in collaboration with our IT staff to kind of get these data flows and make sure that it was producing what we needed. So there's a bit of testing in terms of running our Crystal report in tandem with maybe running a base report in Power BI, just to make sure that it was producing the same types of information. We've set up workspaces within Power BI. So when I talk about workspaces, you can have a workspace for the whole of the service that everybody can see every report, or you can set up we've also got a leadership workspace. So it might be more kind of detailed information on fees, for example. So you can set up a number of workspaces and you can add different people to those workspaces depending on their needs. We also find that as part of this, for every report we prepare, and I would imagine this is pretty common across all authorities, we have to do a data protection impact assessment. I think it was once known as a data privacy impact assessment. I think they've changed the terminology now to data protection impact assessment. So just making sure that our reports are sense checked in terms of the data that we're pulling to make sure we're not pulling any sensitive information, and to also kind of sense check what we're using the information for. So that was kind of done in collaboration with our data protection team in Fife. A key thing as well was engaging with the staff on the requirements. So there was no point of we thought, do we need to recreate what we've already got? So there was a bit of kind of housekeeping in terms of our existing Crystal reports. Do we need these reports? Who uses them? So just actually speaking to staff on what reports they need and actually starting to slowly build them. And certainly in Fife, we work in a very kind of agile way in terms of we speak to staff, we ask if that's what they want, and we look to kind of modify those reports or add different parts of the reports as, because you show somebody a report and go, oh, that's great, but can I have this as well? So we do kind of stock take that, and we do regular improvements to the dashboards, which I'll come on to as part of the live demonstration. A lot of the dashboards as well are informed by feedback from customers. So in Fife, we survey all our applicants at the end of the plan and application process to ask, what went well, what didn't go so well, what could be better. And we also survey anybody that's made any representation on a plan and application as well, to ask them how their experience was with the planning process. So we use that to inform what changes we need to make externally to our website, and you'll see some of the dashboards that we've actually prepared that we've published online as well. So that's all the slides now. So I'm going to go on and present for the next probably 25 to 30 minutes probably, depends how quickly I go through them, to let you see some of the dashboards that we've done. So I've broken this into internal dashboards, kind of stuff that we report on nationally, and then I've also got some external dashboards that we've done as well. So the first one I want to show you is the team workload. So this is the dashboard for the team that I manage, so the validation team and our service improvement work as well. So as you'll see, we've got a kind of main dashboard on the center of the page here. And down the left-hand side, we've got different pages. This is the way we kind of set it up. So this is pulling from both uniform, and it's also pulling from one of the kind of gripes from the team, where that you're only measuring the applications validated. What about all these emails we receive, general inquiries? So we're actually pulling from both uniform, and we're pulling from Microsoft Exchange. So this is pulling in the emails from our central email account as well. And this is updated daily. So this part here is our emails that are sitting, and this links to the calendar to show who's on duty callbacks for morning and afternoon. Shows number of applications sitting waiting to be validated. These are local type applications, and if a toggle list from, sorry, this is householder minor applications. If I toggle it, then it'll show you the other part of the team that deal with the local validation, the non-householder applications. And it just kind of shows you the information there. You can actually drill down to actually, well, that's 8 applications, but what are they? So you can actually right click and you can show the data point as a table, and I'll actually show you all the information that sits behind that, so you can actually drill down. So it's not just a dashboard, it's actually you can get meaningful data, so you can drill down into data as well. If I just click on one of the other parts of that report, so we can also monitor, and I'm pretty sure this is pretty common across the board. Getting an application valid on first attempt is quite tricky. So we can see the number of invalids that we sent, and the number of applications valid on receipt. And then we've actually got filters in place, so we can actually toggle these on and off. So I can set it by financial year, and then I can actually say, well, I want to check it for householder. So there's more valid householders, but if I maybe go click on non-householder, not surprising that there's more applications invalid for non-householder. We also have within that our improvements, so the improvement side of the team, so all the tasks that we do. So this is pulling from another data source. So this is actually pulling from, we actually use Microsoft Teams, and we use the buckets within the planner tool, I think it's planner tool, to actually set up all our kind of tasks, and that information is extracted onto a spreadsheet. So this is one where we're actually pulling information from a spreadsheet and it updates where we are with our improvement tasks. And again, there is a number of different pages on that as well. So I'll just move on to the next dashboard I want to show you. Is a team workload for, we'll just use householder apps. So this is the householder team that deal with all the householder apps. So we can basically just break it down into, so the officers can use this as their kind of workload report. So one question I always ask case officers is, how do you manage your workload? So we have Enterprise that manages our workflow. We have Power BI that has this dashboard, but probably most officers will ask this question and they'll go, well, I keep a spreadsheet. And they have to copy stuff in and out of uniform, or they may pull a template out. So we're trying to say, well, why do you not use Power BI as your kind of main workload tool? And one of the feedbacks was, well, we can't really update the notes to say, if we have an update with our lead to, to have a discussion about what's the next steps, where can we update that information? So we've kind of taken that on board, and we do have, although there's nothing populated in the example I'm showing you, within uniform we've used the notepad field. So whenever they put in a notepad note, it will put that text in. So it allows the manager, when they're having the update, to bring up the live Power BI report and actually to see any comments, and for the officer to actually go and update the comments as they have the discussion. And it just means if that officer goes off sick or is on holiday, anybody can see where an application is in the process. So that was the workload report, and it's also been done that when you click on an application, we've actually embedded a map. So it also helps with planning site visits, and you can see the dot where it's taking you to for the individual applications. We've also got one of the requests from the leads was, that's really good to show the performance and the workload, but we want to see how many we get in every month, how many goes out. So we created this ins and outs of applications. So it just shows the number coming into the team for householder every month and the number going out every month. So that helps for workload management, and to actually, you can drill that into individual officers, for example. Or you can do a number of, so you take that off, it shows all officers. If you do individual ones, you can click, just add different officers in there. So that's one of the typical workload dashboards. I'm going to show you a customer contact. So as I mentioned earlier, the gateway team that managed the kind of customer contact, it was a huge area where we weren't actually able to capture time spent, but we're finding people were spending a lot of their time of their day, kind of hit or miss depending on who called in, but a lot of time responding to customer inquiries, and it wasn't captured anywhere. So we thought, how can we capture this information, and how can we report on it? So we have, every time a customer comes and makes contact and we respond, we fill out a Microsoft form, and then it populates a spreadsheet, which then updates this Power BI dashboard. And I say it populates the spreadsheet automatically. So we've got another tool called, you may have heard of Power Automate. So what that does is that can go into an email account and it can actually automate some of your tasks. So it says if it's this, it'll push the results into a spreadsheet. So we're not having to manually populate spreadsheets. I think we've had this running since about August last year. So you can see that we've not got any filters on terms of the timelines yet, but we're looking to make iterations to this as well. And we can also see kind of the standard responses that go out from our contact center. Yeah, so the two top ones are building standards inquiry, not planning. Seems to be a lot of building standard stuff comes to planning, and vice versa, as we found out. And do I need planning permission? So this also informs how we actually make changes to our website, update our contact information. So we use this as a really powerful tool to inform us about where we need to make changes and where the biggest demand is from customers. We've also introduced telephone appointments for officers, and we just see the uptake, which have been pretty low. There's not been a lot of uptake on our telephone appointments, so that shows that there's been good communication with officers on the kind of progress of applications. And I will come on to one of our external dashboards later, which is our timeline tool, which actually gives customers more meaningful information about where their application is in the process. So that's some of our internal ones. Some of our external national reporting stuff, sorry. So we were within the first cohort to do the National Plan Improvement Framework, and we were paired up with North Lanarkshire Council. And quite interestingly, North Lanarkshire Council are quite far advanced in terms of Power BI as well. So we were able to learn a lot from them as well as part of that kind of peer kind of authority review as well. But while we were pulling the indicators that were outlined in the template, we thought we should really actually do this in Power BI, so we're not having to go run reports each time, so we can actually go and monitor this for next year. So we've kind of pulled forward the kind of main indicators as laid out in the National Plan Improvement Framework. So again, we've just set them as pages. So planning fees, discretionary fees, householder and local performance, major and others, legal agreements. That's back to the validation. Applications submitted online, applications valid on receipt, working days to validate. So again, just building up dashboards, but it's like I said right at the start, it's really important that you get the data flow set up correctly, but don't try and do everything. Don't try and get all your data across at the same time. Do it incrementally and start small and build. Because once your data is right and it's in, you can pull so much more information. And the second one is the Scottish Government return. So we've all got to do our 6 monthly returns to Scottish Government. So previously, Crystal would pull out an Excel and would send the Excel sheet to Scottish Government. So we've recreated this as a dashboard or a kind of workspace within Power BI, and we can extract this to send to Scottish Government. So because we've sense checked this and we know this is correct and information, we're not having to kind of recheck reports again. Obviously, there's a bit of sense checking in terms of the data, but we've recreated that within Power BI. And what we've also done is we've basically told it to to set the codes to Scottish Government codes. So, for example, we have L10 as a householder, but the Scottish Government might have N1 OA or something like that. So we basically set it so we've converted it for them, so they're not having to do a lot of the conversion work. So again, that probably resonates with most people in this call. This is the stuff that we report on every 6 months. So that's all there as well. And finally, the request to send the kind of fee details for heads of planning. And again, we've just recreated that information that required to send as well. And again, there's filters on there to do quarters, financial years. So every time we kind of ask for information, we kind of think, can we set this up in Power BI? So it's a good way of thinking, actually, how can you build on that? So I think one of the other recent examples is we're asked to report on short-term lets. So we've pulled information out, but we're probably going to create a dashboard so we can get that information out more easily. Okay, so go on to some of our external information, and this is the stuff that's probably given us the most benefits. First one I'm going to cover is the weekly list for community councils. Now, we recreated the weekly list on our website, thinking this is great, everybody love it, really interactive. So at the same time, we had a report running from Crystal that would basically send out a PDF copy of the weekly list to every community council. It'd have hyperlinks on it, and they'd be able to click onto the applications. But we put at the bottom of the email, we'll be moving away from the PDF to our online version. Would you like to go and take a look at our online version? The amount of kickback we got as a result of that was quite astounding. Probably not surprisingly, but yeah, there was a lot of people saying that it almost felt like we were removing their right to become engaged and making it more difficult for them, and that wasn't the case at all. So what we ended up doing is we've created the weekly list on our website, but Power BI can also run a report and create a PDF. So it's created what's known as a paginated report. So Power BI will pull all information and it will create it into a PDF and it'll send it out to the community councils. So in terms of the legislation, as you'll all know, there is a requirement in the regulations for us to send a copy of the weekly list to them. So we were sending them an email saying, it's here online, go and have a look. And we're saying, well, actually, no, you've not sent us the attachment, so you've not actually sent the weekly list to us, and we're quoting legislation at us. So we now do send them the weekly list, but it's a flat PDF document with no hyperlinks. So we've done what we're statutorily required to do, but we've not provided all the links like we've previously done, because we really want people to use the weekly list online. So I'll let you see how that looks. And this is going to our website. So this is on our website. It's under our planning pages, and there's a button that says weekly lists. So we've recreated applications by community council, and effectively that creates the PDF that would have gone out to them, just showing all the applications for every community council, and they can click on the link and it'll take them into the application on the online planning system. We've also created a little email command, so if they wish to become a statutory consultee, they can click it and it'll bring up an email, and it'll send an email to our development central. So basically pre-populate an email for them to send, and they can send that to us to request statutory status. So we took that a bit further and thought, well, this is for community councils, but there's probably better use for members of the public as well. So go back. Sorry, this is where it is on our website, week list of applications. And if we go to applications registered, for example, then I can actually pick the week that I want. I can sort it by ward. I can sort it by community council area. I can sort it by area committee or planning committees. Some of you may think, well, we've already got this on our online planning system. I think the issue that we found with the online planning system is it's a kind of moving feast. So if you run an application of weekly list validated this week, it's going to change because something might be validated tomorrow. Similarly, something that was valid as of last week, if we don't validate that to next week, then if they run the list at that point in time, it's only going to show a reflection of a live point in time. So the weekly list as we currently run it runs on a Sunday, and it works from the date that the acknowledgement was sent in uniform. So it's actually pulling stuff that has formally been registered by the planning authority. So we're finding that's been working well. But what I will also say is any Power BI reports that are published externally, they are not accessible. So that's not a Fife Council thing, that's a Microsoft issue, that any reports you create, try and publish them externally, and you may have issues. So we've managed to get a couple of our reports published externally, but the more recent one that I'm going to show you, our kind of flow chart, we've basically hit issues with our web team in terms of saying that it's not accessible. So we're a bit frustrated with that, but trying to work with them to try and get a solution to that. Application timeline. So if somebody wants to get in touch, the most common thing is, how's my application progressing? Because from our customers' feedback was they submit an application, they get a notice validated, and then they don't hear anything. It just goes into a black hole. So the public access site does have a timeline tool on, and the newer version of public access, but we were actually developing a separate timeline tool before that came into place. So if we go into progress updates, the first dashboard that comes up is, this is a live Power BI dashboard, is actually just telling the customer how long it's taken to validate a planning application and our average processing times for householder and non-householder planning applications. And as I go down the page, you can find more information on our planning application timeline tool. And the good thing about this is that it will actually show if an application is sitting as invalid. So that's one of the issues with the current public access system, is you can't display an application when it's invalid. So it's not until you put the valid date in that it appears in public access. So we've actually kind of taken that on board. And we actually, if somebody knows their reference, they can type it in, and if it's sitting at invalid, it will actually say that it's waiting further information. So that's kind of an enhancement on what our current online planning system does. So if they know the application reference, and I'll just type in a number, you can click on it, and then we click to view the details. So this is pulling from key fields in uniform, and as it goes through the process, it has a tick, and you'll see there's crosses there as well. That's just because it's not been applicable to this certificate of lawfulness application, but it shows where it is in the process, and it shows the proposed target date for the application. So also you can do to go to, I'll maybe go to another one that's been decided. That shows that one is going to committee, so that's the committee dates being entered, so it shows it's going to committee. You can also switch to address search. And again, this is just pulling from, this is all information that's been pulled from the uniform data flow. So we'll South Street. That just shows the one that's been decided. If, for example, there was one sitting invalid, it would be right at the start and it would say the application's waiting for further information. So it's a kind of, it saves this chasing from members of the public when my agent submitted an application 2 weeks ago, but I've not heard anything. So that's helped in regards to that. And the final dashboard I'm going to show you, and this is the one we've not managed to get published, but I'm sure it'll be of interest to most people on this call, because it's the thing that's caused us the biggest pain in the last few months, is the new replacement Windows class 7, 7A. PD for Windows in the conservation area. So we've used Power BI to create a kind of flowchart, an interactive one. So I'll just let you see how this works. Whether you agree with the questions or what I'm going to answer, I'll leave that to you. So I'll just say the property is in a conservation area. And then we've got a link to our conservation area webpage so they can check to see if the building's in the conservation area. Okay, is it fronting? Is it on the principal elevation or a side elevation that fronts the road? We'll say yes. The penultimate question is it substantially the same, whatever that may mean? So we'll say yes, it is. And are you proposing any other than window or alterations? For example, you may be replacing your door as well, which may require permission in its own right. So we'll just say, we'll say yes. It's a building within the structure list of buildings, a ground list of the building. And again, we've got a link to list the building webpage. So we'll say yes, it is. The work's already been carried out, no. So then it basically tells them whether whether prior approvals are required or not. In this case, it's saying planning permission is not required. However, you may wish to apply for a certificate of lawfulness for confirmation. Other works may require planning permission and listed building consent is required as well. So that's something we've been working on. It's taken us a lot of time to get our heads around the legislation. Staff that are doing the validation have found this really useful. We'd really like to get it published because I think it could be a benefit to our customers. So that's all my demonstrations. There's a whole list of other things that I could have shown you that are here, and Trevor will send the presentation out. Unfortunately, the links to our internal dashboards won't work, but the two external ones I showed you will work.